And we are live. Gentlemen, welcome back to another Mecca moment here on the Mecca Banter podcast. I'll say it this week, like I say every week. It's a great week to be a Manchester United fan, but we are not here to talk about Manchester United. Oh, no, sir. We are here to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Lionel Messi coming to Inter Miami. We have a lot to dive into today. We'll talk about Messi. We'll talk about St. Louis City and their disaster in Dallas last night, as well as the Champions League final coming up. But before we dive into that, it's your boy Hen at Henry Wind on Twitter. You can find me there. Dobes, Hoove, how are you all doing today?
Great, man. Yeah, can't complain. This Messi business has been frankly insanity across all channels. That has been so fun. The St. Louis disaster in Dallas last night did not make me feel great, but there's brighter days ahead. So
brighter days ahead. Maybe July 15th there'll be a brighter day.
I've always said, the MLS is the biggest league in the world. We now have the best player in the world. No, it's been sort of a super cool 24 hours just to sort of see all the different development. It's one of those things we heard the rumors like forever ago. Nobody I don't think I ever really thought that it was real. I read that months ago. I always figured he just had more time, and then all of a sudden the bomb dropped yesterday, and here we are today, man.
Dude, it's weird. I was in the same boat. So I guess for those of you that, have been living under a rock in the soccer community for the last 24 hours, Lionel Messi came out in an interview yesterday saying that he's not only leaving PSG, that he is not going to the Saudi League, nor is he returning to Barcelona, but he is instead going to Inter Miami in the MLS. And I am right there with you, Dobes. I think that this has been a rumor now for about 2 years. It's been about 2 years since David Beckham has kind of done his thing. He put it out there that he wants the best talent in the world. I always thought Ronaldo would go there prior to Messi, and here we are. I think we've even talked about this move on the podcast before, thinking that, maybe he would go back to Barcelona for another year, 2 more years, and then right into the sunset into Inter Miami. This guy is not washed up. I just want to remind you, 6 months ago, he lifted the World Cup trophy. He was the best player on the pitch every single game, best player in the world, coming off of a Ballon d'Or season. He's not washed by any means, and he's going to the MLS.
He had 20 goals and 20 assists for PSG too.
He's gonna win the Ballon d'Or. He's gonna have another one.
And he's gonna be in Miami. He's gonna show it to the Miami fans in a temporary stadium. That's insane.
So, on this pod, we're massive fans of Messi, but for you both personally, what do you think this moment, what does it mean to you, and what do you think it means for the game here in America?
I think first off, to me, obviously the first initial reaction is just shock. It's I don't think people realize he is now the biggest superstar athlete in the United States, and it's not even close. Yeah. I saw something today where it was talking about Ohtani, Tom Brady, with Tiger Woods, all their followers on Instagram, and Messi has all of theirs combined plus more. So This is not just the biggest athlete in soccer. This is the biggest athlete in the entire world, in my opinion, coming to the United States. So definite shock, but I think it's almost a little bit of sadness. Truthfully, reason being is because I think sort of a little piece of everybody who loves the game, kind of wanted to see him go reunite back at Barcelona, just to sort of see, we all saw him that he still has it. He can still be the best player in the world when he wants to be, but he never wanted to leave Barcelona in the first place. And I feel like we all just sort of thought that it made sense for him to go back there for 1 or 2 more years, go try to win something with Xavi as the head coach. But then it came out that he didn't want to deal with the mess that was Barcelona. And I think it is cool. We were talking about before we hopped on that he chose to not go to Saudi Arabia. He could have gone anywhere else in the world. He said the only other club I would have gone to was Barcelona or Inter Miami, which what a fucking wild
how crazy. I do respect that though. In the interview, him saying that I didn't want to deal with the mess because that's what happened. That's why he went to PSG. That Barcelona didn't get his contract done in time, and then they had already registered a bunch of players before they had registered him, and they literally couldn't register him as a player. They didn't matter what they were paying them or paying him, or if he was getting paid at all, they didn't have the roster spot. And so Messi knew that in going back that, there was a lot of things that had to get done between now and then before he'd be able to get registered. And he didn't want to leave his future in someone else's hand. So I do respect that a lot. And I love that he called it out too.
I'm so glad he didn't go to Saudi Arabia. It feels like Rory and PGA and not taking the live money. Like, he is just not concerned about the cash. He only ever would have played at Barcelona, which also I don't feel bad for them. I think they're a shit show of a club, and
we're all in on Real Madrid on this podcast. We love Real Madrid.
Everything that he's done, or everything that they did with him, that's what makes me sad. Like, it's a bummer we're not going to see him play in Europe again. I still think he's got it. I still think he could be that player, but ultimately they fumbled the bag. They've done everything wrong by him. So I'm glad that he is going to Miami. I'm glad he's not taking the Saudi, sports washing money, but we've seen from the beginning, this guy's never been about money. Like, the obvious comparison between him and Ronaldo and that argument is that he's never really wanted to be in the spotlight. He kind of has always just wanted to show up, play football, go home to his family. And I think, he said it in the interview too, but that was ultimately his decision was, his kids are going to get to go to good, Miami-based schools and become American citizens. And I do think that's the best thing for his family. And, he obviously did too, but he's the biggest player. He's the biggest athlete to play in this country since Pele. And like Pele, it did what Messi's been doing way long ago. So it's so good for the league. He's not only, part of his contract, and I'm sure I'll let you break it down, but he's going to be around for forever. He's got a clause that allows him to buy a team when his career's up. So, what David Beckham did in 2000 whatever when he came to the Galaxy, Messi is going to do tenfold, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just so good for us. That's so good for the league. It's so good for the Firmino to St. Louis rumors. Like, there's so many residual things that could come from this kind of ripple effect. And I couldn't be more excited. There's a small percentage chance that he plays in St. Louis July 15th. I don't think it'll happen. But I am not selling my ticket for an absurd price at this point, just in, with the 5% chance that I may see the guy like that. That means everything to me. So
every single Inter Miami game for the rest of the year is already sold out. The away game, home game,
crazy.
Everything. I was reading something today, and I do think the sort of understated thing here is just the relationship with David Beckham, in order to without Beckham's not here, he's not coming. I genuinely think that's the thing. I was looking at something today. It says over the last 5 years, Inter Miami has made over $255 million. He bought them for $25 million.
Yeah.
Before they had Messi, they were valued at $600 million. Now the franchise is valued at over $1 billion.
So ridiculous.
I think that right now, just from the commercial aspect of where this takes the league, it's I was listening to even Goldbridge and just different soccer people sort of talk about this today. And it's they're going to be watching the MLS now because the best player in the world it's not just going to be the you and I's who have a St. Louis City team or MLS fans. All eyes on world football when Messi plays will be watching the MLS. And that's something that Beckham wouldn't have the ability to do. I think Ronaldo probably definitely would, but I think the only other guy is Messi, and now he's here. So holy shit.
I loved all the tweets that I was seeing of it's 3 a.m. and I'm gearing up to watch Messi take on FC Cincinnati, and there's a guy fucking just fist pumping. But the official breakdown of the contract has not been released because not everything's been signed off. But what Hoover was alluding to earlier is included in Messi's new contract is a percentage on subscriptions to the MLS season pass on Apple TV paid directly by Apple, a percentage of Inter Miami shirt sales paid directly by Adidas, and the possibility of acquiring an MLS franchise at the end of his career. Now, that jersey, the Messi Miami jersey, will be the most sold jersey in the United States of any sport in 2023, and it's going to start in June. So every other jersey in the United States will have a 6-month head start, and this one will be the highest selling. Apple and Adidas hopping in on this contract deal is monumental for the league. You alluded to David Beckham and what he did for the game. I think that this is way bigger tenfold, and we haven't even mentioned Inter Miami is sitting in last place in their conference. Like they are a bad team. They just fired their head coach. There's a lot of speculation about them bringing in a new coach to suit Lionel Messi and
Tata.
Yeah, Tata, bring in Sergio Busquets and maybe Di Maria, maybe Suarez to have a farewell tour, I guess, for Lionel Messi in the MLS. But not saying that it's going to be the peak of his career when he turns that club around and wins them the MLS Cup, but what the fuck? That would be so sick to see, like, dead last. Messi comes in, they turn the whole thing around, and he's just the best there ever was.
It was funny. I was reading some quotes. It was Aguero saying that he was texting Messi, being like, "Yo, they're in 15th place." And Messi was like, "Yeah, we'll have to take care of that and make the playoffs," which is just a very funny statement to think about. Messi.
Yeah. 4 or 5, 2 months ago, maybe he was talking about like losing the Champions League, like round of 16 or whatever. And now he's like, maybe I'll make the MLS playoffs. Who knows? All I know is that for the rest of the year, it's going to be madness. I'm so excited. I share a little bit within the sadness, but I'm stoked.
I think the last sort of like point for me, at least, that just sucks is like Messi deserved like send off.
Yeah,
he deserved, like, we saw Busquets get tossed, like you saw Xavi get tossed, like you saw Iniesta, like more than ever. I think more than any player probably ever, like the connection that he has with those Barcelona fans, and that he didn't get that moment. Like he'll eventually, yes, be back there in some capacity, probably someday.
Yeah.
But it won't be as a player. He won't get that last moment, like playing with Barcelona, walking off the pitch, him probably falling in tears. That I think we all kind of just wanted, like a moment that we all wanted to see.
Well,
it sucks that we were robbed of that.
I'll throw out a hot take. It wasn't so long ago that Thierry Henry was at New York Red Bulls and he came back to Arsenal for like 2 months. He signed like a small loan deal between the season where like the MLS finished and the other like rest of the leagues were going on. My guess is something like that will happen. It'll be like a month-long loan deal with like Barcelona. He'll get to play 2 or 3 home games and they will do a send-off of some sort in between the MLS season. That's my guess as to what will happen.
I think Messi's like, he is that guy that like he can just show up and be the best player in the world. So like him in Miami, and like we all know Messi is just like that guy that just likes to relax. We see the pictures on the beach with him and his wife and his kids. Like I just see Messi being the guy. Like I think he's genuinely here to retire. Like he's going to spend every waking moment on a boat. He's going to be, Busquets is going to come back in town. We're going to see the pictures of all of them at the Heat game and all this shit. Like I think that's genuinely.
He's going to be hanging with your dad, bro.
Yeah,
I've been
go fishing together.
I've been drinking the memes, to be honest. Like the MLS Buzz guy and some of those cats, they saw one that was like Barcelona fans spent 6 months chanting his name in the 10th minute of every game while he wasn't in the stadium, only for him to be playing at Gillette Stadium on a Wednesday night, pouring down rain on AstroTurf. Like it is funny. Kind of comical. And I made this point yesterday on our Twitter account too. Someone said like, he feels bad for the Cincinnati fans because he won't play on Cincinnati's field because it's turf. And I was like, this should force the league to get rid of all the turf, bro. Yeah. Like we're watching guys go down week after week with non-contact injuries and turf monsters. So I don't blame him. I wouldn't play on any of those turf fields. And that should at least force the league to do something about the fields. It should also force the league to change some of these sketchy little roster rules that they have. We've got a salary cap. We've got all these things that the general football world doesn't have to deal with. But then you bring in a player like him. How are you going to build a team around him when you're technically only allowed to have like 28 senior players on the squad? Like,
it's a league-defining change. Yeah.
It is a league-defining change. So I do hope that restructures or at least raises a salary cap or something to where we can start to get more guys like him in around him and on other teams.
Yeah.
But for the time being, you just kind of soak it up and you watch Inter Miami games. That just is what it is.
I don't think there's been another, like, I don't think there ever will be another player ever that will force, because it came out that like every single team in the MLS had some financial responsibility no matter how big and how small it is, in bringing Messi to the MLS. That never happened again in any sport ever.
No.
Like that even if the MLS, yes, you can say it's not the biggest league in the United States, but the whole concept of that to me is just insane. That every single club wanted to like pay somewhat to have him come and join the league just for it to grow. It's crazy.
I don't love that either, but my one exception is for this guy.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
how
I mean,
am I
yes.
gonna be like? How am I gonna be like? Oh, City shouldn't have to. No, if we have to pay a small percentage of his salary, and then we have a better chance of getting Firmino or anyone of that caliber, do it. Why should I care? Like, this is just
Yeah.
good
Now-
for everybody.
Now, if they rattle off like 4 MLS Cups in a row, fuck
I might
that.
be pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might be pissed.
But the thing is like we're watching, and this is a good transition into City, but we're watching the City versus Dallas game last night, and no one is in the Dallas stands. No one. And maybe that has to do with the fact that it's a replay, and maybe it's only a 40-minute game. But now every single game that Messi is involved in all across the league, those tickets are completely sold out. So you're telling me that, Chicago Fire that can't pay people to go watch the game now has a sold out game every single season.
Yeah.
Like, of course they're going to invest in that. Now it's a little bit different with St. Louis where we do sell out every game. And maybe it's because it's the first year, maybe it's because we're doing well. But when you look at like helping out the rest of the league, like they'll hitch to that wagon every single day of the week. But last night, gentlemen, St. Louis City lost in Dallas 2-0 after only playing 40 minutes, which was a resumed game from about a month ago. 2 months ago, maybe a month ago. I don't remember. It was a weather delay in the 50th minute. Lightning. They had to evacuate the field, and then after 2 hours of a delay, they called it. You both have some strong opinions on last night's game, and I can't wait to hear them. So I'm going to stop talking and let you guys talk.
I'll go quick. Yeah, I'll go quickly. We can kind of just go because I'm assuming all of us are going to have a lot of the same sort of thoughts on last night. I think first off, like they should just replay the whole game. Like unless a team is winning, in my opinion, like unless somebody's up 1-0 or 2-0, like keep the score. But when it's 0-0, fucking start the whole game over. Them having to start the game from a goal kick is absolutely ridiculous. Like I will give the boys a little bit of like the benefit of the doubt that like it is a weird circumstance. It takes you a little bit to get going, just like it takes you your first 10-15 minutes of a game to get going. When you're already in the second half, like obviously there's some sort of aspect you have to play through. But even regardless, the overall performance from basically everybody but Lowen, at least in my opinion, was terrible. And I don't even want to get started. Johnny Nelson, like after that, I mean, we've thought he was suspect for so long.
Since day one.
Since day one. But just watching those goals last night, it's like there was moments last night where we created a few decent chances and defensively we were okay, but both goals were we strictly just got played through. Like it wasn't like it was some world-class buildup. It was like 1 or 2 passes and we got played through and just couldn't do anything from there. I'm curious your guys' thoughts. I was thinking about this last night. At what level do you think that Lowen could play for? Like, do you think that, like, I watched him last night, and every time it seems like he's on the ball, he was our bright spot. Like, I genuinely think he could start for a Bundesliga team. I don't know if he could play in the Prem, but, like, what are your guys' thoughts? Because I think he's an absolute baller every single time he plays.
I would agree. I think he we came from a Bochum or Paderborn or something like that. So where he was a squad rotation player, he was one of those guys that just needed a little bit more time on the field to actually show and showcase. I think
he's a baller.
His ability. He's a baller. So I would agree with that Bundesliga statement. And truthfully, we've said it on this podcast before. We're going to have to get used to being a selling club at some point because Lutz is just going to churn these guys out. And I do think he and maybe Klaus they kind of maybe looked at this transfer as a career jump starter.
Stepping stone.
A stepping stone, which I very much so am okay with being. We're not going to bring in all these worldly guys and with the contract structure, we can really only have 3 guys that don't fall under a cap. So I think there's a good chance we don't see him I don't know about next year, but the year after that, I have a hard time thinking with the rate that guys are leaving the MLS too now and actually going to relevant clubs that are playing these MLS cats. I think there's a real world where we don't get to see him because he goes back to Germany. So, yeah, I think he's jump starting. I think he could go somewhere, but for right now, he's our main man and playmaker, and I love him. He's the best. He's so fun to watch. My thoughts on that game last night. I thought it was a colossal failure. I don't think that's that hot of a take. The fact that we finished the game and used 0 subs. We'd used 0 subs in the first 50, used 0 subs when we restarted the game. We've played the same damn near lineup minus Ostrak here and there for the last 3 games, and we've been a wagon. And obviously it was at home, things were different. There were only 8 fans in the Dallas stadium last night anyway. But we didn't change anything. We've had Hebert as a left back for the last 3 games, and we've all thought he's been filled in great, at least in the defensive side of things, that he's way more locked down. So I was disappointed not to see. I just have to think this was another little trial for Nelson, and just kind of hoping that maybe he's still got something. I thought it was a major failure that he didn't come off. I thought it was a failure that Blom didn't come in. I understand not wanting to use guys and potentially get them hurt under 40 minutes, but this was a league game, folks. It's like this is still something that we can pull points from. And a 0-0 draw, someone said when you play for a 0-0 draw, that's what happens. 0-0 draw would have been fine. I wouldn't have batted an eye. We played 40 minutes, couldn't get back into it, whatever. But the collapse defensively was so disappointing. There were loose touches all over the field from everyone. I mean, Gioacchini basically put Jesus Ferreira in on net, of which I would like to apologize to. Jesus, if you're listening, I have no personal quarrels against you. I just find you to be overhyped and underwhelming, and I can't believe it was you who scored against us. But like Dobe said, would rather him score against City than be in the USA camp. So we are not relying him in that sense. But it was a huge bummer, especially after taking Houston 3-0 in, not necessarily, I wouldn't even call it convincing fashion. They played well, and a clean sheet's a clean sheet's a clean sheet. But we scored on 3 different set pieces and 2 pens. So the set pieces are great. I love that we do capitalize on those, and I'm glad that, we showed that against Houston. But man, I was angry last night. Like, I felt bad because I kind of made a scene at my sister's house, and that was what it was. That's what football does to you. But it's a blip on the radar. You move, you play LA, who is Chicharito lists on Sunday and at home, and I expect more of the same of what we saw before Dallas.
The Hebert point is such a great thing, like great call out, because the not using any subs and having him on the bench and having him have played like the last 3 games in a row when we've won all 3, played consistent, not giving up a lot of goals. It's like the moment that you see Nelson's off, like just get him out, like pull him out, get Hebert in there, like try to lock it down a little bit. So yeah, I mean it's tough. I mean, you give the guys just a little bit of excuse because of the 40 minutes, but like we moved to Galaxy and hope we can fix it.
Weird for sure.
I think that it was a failure, like you said, from the start as well. I think even if it's 40 minutes, you put your best 11 out there, you can make 5 subs. And like, I don't even think that they should have waited any time to make this. I think they should have started from the 51st minute with the
7 guys in.
Wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
We wanted them.
You save one for an injury, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, the guys in that you wanted.
So we moved to LA, and on Sunday, like you said, Hoove, what do you all expect? Are we expecting the lineup that we saw against Houston, or do we think that there's going to be more changes? I mean, Nelson can't start. We know that. The thing is, though, the thing that is so weird is like I tweeted it, but like there's a thing that happened numerous times in the season where Nelson's available on the left wing and our team just doesn't play it to him. Like wide open, the switch is on, they don't play it to him. And then yesterday, ball dropped to him inside of our attacking box and no defender pressured him because they just don't see him as a threat. And like That can't happen. Hebert, on the other hand, Hebert's not going to like beat you down the line, serving the perfect ball and whatever. But guys play in front of Hebert way differently than they play in front of Nelson. Like the amount of times in the previous 3 games that you would see Celio or Lowen or whoever drifting wide to pick up the ball where you would think that a wingback would be, they do that with him, but with Nelson, they just don't. So like, Nelson can't start, but I think we roll the same lineup as we saw with Houston.
I think so too, and it just, I mean, we're really beating the drum on why Hebert didn't play, but if you've got armchair analyst guys like us that are watching these things happen in and out of games with our team and with opposing teams, and he was taken out, like we pulled this guy early in, you know, our expansion career. He was taken out not even a couple weeks into the season for a glorified collegiate center back who is playing professionally for the first time ever, and we all think is done much better job on the left. So I feel bad for the guy. You know, and to a certain degree, we're so close to these cats that I don't ever really like dragging them that much. But I would rather have my collegiate, fresh rookie, professional, makeshift left back in over a guy that we pulled in pretty early to specifically play the left back position. So I wouldn't call it a failure on anyone's point. I don't have anything against the guy. I think if that was the game plan from the beginning, someone misscouted. You know, you're not going to get the right guys every time. He was available, I'm sure, on some sort of deal, but now we have borderline completely replaced him within the squad itself. So sucks. It does suck, but if he's in the lineup on Sunday, I'm gonna not feel good about the game. Like I'm so critical of wingbacks, and I always have been so critical of wingbacks, and I think it's such a hard position to play and really shine at and be great. And I don't think Jake has been, you know, particularly overwhelming, but Jake is at least consistent and solid.
Yeah,
like I was more worried about him originally. Super consistent, gets up and down the wing, puts in work shifts, and defends. If we forget that these wingbacks defend, that's the first job that you do. You're on the defensive line. So if you offer a ton up front, like some Trent, you know, Trent Alexander, that okay, great. Can you defend your position? I don't think Nelson can. I think Hebert can. Even if he's not whipping these crosses, guys will just, you know, pick up the ball and play without him being in those spaces, like you said.
I think that the key thing is like having gone and watched the last 3 games and having seen Blom and then like having to see us without him is just like
it was night and day.
Yeah, having him back in the squad for Sunday against the Galaxy, having no Chicharito. I'm actually looking on FotMob right now. It says that Diego Costa's out till mid-June, which I don't know.
Really?
That's what it says.
He hasn't been
played last night too.
Did
That's
he?
what
I don't think
he scored.
He scored. Yeah.
He scored.
God.
Yeah. So that's why it's weird that it says that. But I mean, Blom will make such a difference. I would love to see Blom just with a 2-footer into fucking Ricky Puig. And I don't know what it is. It's just like I see all the videos and stuff of Puig on fucking Instagram, and it's like he's a guy that wore a Barcelona jersey a couple times that think he has the reputation of Messi. And it's the most frustrating thing in the world. I would love to see Blom just clear him out. But this is a Galaxy team that just like having look at their form, it's kind of like they're up and down. It's like one day they have it, the next day it's like they get beat by a team they shouldn't get beat by. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. You know, life without Klaus moves on, and it's like hopefully I would like to see us score a few more goals from open play versus strictly set pieces and pens. But then again, you take them how they can come.
Yeah.
Bingo.
You credit the way they play. And if you're going to play on that front foot and going to be the pressing style of team and going to be, you know, heavy in the offensive third, you have to have critical set pieces. Like, you know, that's a lot of where your game might actually come from just because of the manner and how you go about the approach. So I'm glad that we do have those set pieces, but I agree. I would love some more open play goals. We're missing Klaus heavy, and I think Nico's done a good job at filling the gap for what he can. But he's just so much better underneath an out-and-out 9. And I think he knows that. I think the club knows that. Obviously, you know, if Klaus was healthy, he'd be playing, which is a bummer because he did what? He took another he had another issue in trainings, knocked him back another 2 weeks. we're talking about a very, very long-term, mildly serious injury.
It's been like 3 months, hasn't it? It's been fucking
I
forever.
I don't even know. I feel like we've played a majority of the season without him, and we forget that also. Nilsson, our big Swede center back, I think there's a world where he's coming back maybe late summer. I saw a St. Louis reporter joke with Carnell, was like, "Hey, maybe there's a chance that we get Nilsson back before Klaus," and he apparently did not find that funny at all, because there might be a world where that's the case. So,
Yeah.
I hope he comes back, because we just need some more dynamicism up front.
Looking
Well,
at
gentlemen,
I'm just looking at the possession stats. It looks like the Galaxy are 4th in the league in possessions. I mean, this kind of plays into the style that we
This
like
is
to play
us.
anyway.
Yeah,
So I like our chances.
I do too.
same.
At home, we're a
Come on.
fortress. City Park,
Cake.
baby.
Gentlemen, we also have a massive game on Saturday. We have the Champions League final. We have the mighty Inter Milan versus Manchester City for potentially the treble this year. I can't imagine a world where Manchester City loses. I just can't imagine a world where that happens. Convince me otherwise.
Ah.
Nice.
I don't got
An early and a 10th minute penalty to Inter, and then a defensive masterclass.
Would be
for-
unbelievable, bro.
I agree, and I think I'm to the point too. City's done it. City bounced the Gooners. They've done everything that I've needed them to do this year. So this one, frankly, I have zero stake in. Could care less if they lost. But man, I just don't see it either.
I think it is nothing short of an absolute colossal failure if Man City, like, their whole season is worth nothing to me if they don't win this
Yeah.
game.
I agree.
100%.
And I
Yeah.
genuinely mean that. Like, yes, winning the Prem, it's kind of unbelievable to say that, like, them winning another Premier League title isn't that big of a deal, but realistically, it isn't. Like, we all can sit here and say that Man City's been the best team over the last 10 years, because we know that they have the trophies to say it. Yes, they have 115 sanctions, but, like, this Man City team is, like, on paper, like, there's arguments to say, like, they may not necessarily be the best team of all time, but, like, I think the brand of football that this Man City team plays is right up there with just as good as we've ever seen ever. But then again, like, finals, this has been sort of their bug. The Champions League has been the sort of the one that's got away over the last couple of years. Inter isn't a slouch by any means. Like, Inter's here for a reason. They've had to win some tough games, some big games to get here. Like, they have some players that in a big moment can make something happen and really make this a game. But Man City's just,
it's not
like,
even fair.
I just, like, I genuinely, and you guys tell me, like, I thought United may have had a better chance to beat them in the FA Cup final than I think Inter has to beat them in this Champions League final. In that game, that 13 seconds in was just like, this team's just different. Like, they're Pep's got them firing on all cylinders. Like, that goal, they didn't look that good, but it was just a final and they took care of business. And I don't see any world where they don't do that again this weekend.
Without a City representative on this podcast, we didn't get to quickly glance on the FA Cup. I don't think on any prior recordings, and that thanks to you guys just completely ignoring that it even happened. But that first goal in the first 13 seconds was insane. It was insane. That guy's a magician.
I see something all the time, and it's just, there's not, like, I was just proud of sort of, like, the fact that we were in the game, as, like, almost as embarrassing as that sounds. Like, I saw tweets afterwards just sort of naming the teams that City rolled through in the Champions League, and, like, Real Madrid didn't fight back at all. Like, all of these, like, bigger teams, to where that's the thing. I think if City get up a goal, it's game over. Like, I genuinely think it's game over. And then you just even look at you compare both benches. If you need impact, say it does stay 1-1, it gets late in the game, it's like you're going extra time. It's like they're going to bring on Mahrez, they're going to bring on Foden, they're going to bring on Alvarez. It's like, oh, Diaz gets hurt, oh, let's bring on Laporte. Like, the depth that they have is just, there's no world they don't win this game.
Yeah, quote me on it. Like, there's just no shot. I'm putting the chips on them to lift at least.
But
If
if
you're
if they do lose, every single person listens to this podcast, you will want to be there and listen to this podcast when it comes out next Tuesday, because I will have a rant of all rants ready for you all.
if you're interested in the betting lines, Inter Milan is plus 550 to win the game in 90 minutes, and City is minus 220. Now, I want to remind you,
What is it?
gentlemen.
2.5
That's it.
goals?
Well, yeah, 2.5 is the line, but we look at these lines every weekend for the Prem. A minus 220 would be the equivalent of what they were like slated against like Southampton, bottom of the Prem, minus 220. And this is a Champions League final, and they're at minus 220. Like that,
and I'm gonna
is
hammer that.
bonkers, bro.
I find those to be decent odds for them. You're telling me like $22 to win 10. We're bobbing some chips.
I hope Inter keeps it close. And the only thing that we can say is I don't think that City played very well against United in the FA Cup final. Dobes, you mentioned it. They took care of business. That's that. Inter's bench is deeper than United's is. It just is. They're also up there defensively.
That's not saying much, but it's true.
Yeah, I know. But like they can bring on Lukaku for Lautaro Martinez, and I still rate Lukaku over Weghorst, at least from the work rate perspective. So maybe there's a world. I know that I started off this whole segment with like it's never going to happen, but maybe there's a world where Inter takes them to something and Mkhitaryan comes up with like a moment of magic, and I would just be ecstatic through the roof. Maybe Brozovic loses his mind and breaks Rodri's leg. I don't know. Like it could be something.
This would make the summer just fantastic.
I would be so chilling.
If Inter could figure out a way to do this, it would be.
I forget Mkhitaryan's a player. Like what a flash in the pan.
There's Mkhitaryan, Lukaku, Darmian, like all these guys that played for United that didn't win shit for us are just playing in a Champions League final.
Sick. Good on them.
Hey, welcome to it, brother.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for your time today. That'll conclude today's Mecca Moments. As always, check us out on all of our social media. We've been extremely active on the Twitter. We love that. We're not going to stop that. We're gonna keep going. So make sure you give us a follow, and we'll be right back here on Monday night, coming out on Tuesday for the weekend recap with the big games going on. So, gentlemen, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, lads. Yeah.
Whoop,
whoop.